In this video, I'm going to break down armor in Destiny 2 so that you can confidently build each character class and fully understand armor stat rolls, power level, and energy types. By the end, you'll know what to keep, what to toss, when to infuse, and what pieces to masterwork. My name's Abby, and welcome to my channel. If you enjoy topics like this, feel free to join my chat on Twitch where I stream live 4 days a week. Also, make sure you hit that subscribe button for more Destiny 2 videos. All right, the first thing we're going to talk about is power level. Now, this is the big number that you see here on your armor pieces. This season, the soft cap is 1050, the hard cap is 1060. Wherever you are on your power level journey, leveling up, or if you're max, doesn't really matter for this particular video because we're going to be talking about specific armor stat rolls. But just know that a higher power score improves both your damage output and your defense. So your goal each season is to get up to that max power level score. However, it does not determine if an armor piece is good or not. A lower light level piece like this 1050 doesn't necessarily mean that it is better or worse than a 1060 piece. So even if you're still leveling up, you want to pay attention to the armor rolls, which we're going to get into later, and not just the power level. The only thing you want to make sure you do is keep your highest power level items in each slot. So especially if you are leveling up, because that's going to dictate what level your drops are at. If you want to see the level of your highest equipable gear, go over to the seasons tab and hover over a piece of armor, and that's going to show you your highest level of equipable gear. But like I said, you don't always want to get rid of lower pieces just because they're lower power level, because you can infuse them up to your current level. But as long as you're keeping those in your inventory, your drops are going to be at your highest level. But if you're still leveling up, I wouldn't recommend infusing every single thing because you're going to quickly run out of resources. So just keep those items, and you can either lock them or mark them as favorites or something in Destiny Item Manager for infusion later on when you have more materials. Another website that I really love for seeing your max equipable gear power is Destiny Power Bars. I'll put the link down below if you guys want to check it out, but it shows the items that will make you your highest power level. So whether you have these items equipped or not, you'll still be getting drops at this power level right here. So it's a nice way just to see how much your artifact is contributing to your power and what your max equipable gear power is. However, for power leveling strategies and getting your power level up, that's going to be a separate video. So next up, we're going to be talking about armor stats, and these are the character stats that you'll see right here when you hover over each of them. There are 6 armor stats. We've got mobility, resilience, recovery, discipline, intellect, and strength. And if you hover over each of these on your character screen, you can get a little description about them. But basically, when this number gets higher, you are going to be buffing that particular stat. So mobility is your movement speed and jump height. Resilience is the amount of damage you can take before dying. Your recovery is the speed at which you regain lost health. Discipline is the cooldown time of your grenades. Intellect is the cooldown time of your super ability. And strength is the cooldown time of your melee ability. So important to note is you will only decrease the cooldown time of these stats in tens. So 48 here on my discipline literally only means I have 40. If I could take these 8 points out of discipline, it would not have any effect on my cooldown time for my grenades whatsoever. So ideally, I would want to be at 50 here or at a flat 40. So your goal with these stats is to make them as flat as possible while also focusing into a couple specific ones. So another thing I should mention is that each class, Hunter, Titan, and Warlock, each have a separate stat that governs the cooldown of their class ability. So for Hunters, it is mobility, as you can see here, reduces the cooldown of your class ability. So you're going to see a separate cooldown here onto the mobility stat. And then for Titans, it's going to be resilience, and for Warlocks, it's going to be recovery. So depending on which class you are, you may want to also focus into those particular stats as well. So each armor piece drops with some points into each of these 6 stats. So it's random drops. When you get a drop, you're going to see, 4 into here, 12 into here, 20 into here, etc. So what makes a good armor piece? A good armor piece that you're going to want to infuse and potentially masterwork at the end of the day. Ultimately, that is up to you. However, I'm going to give you some tips and recommendations from my time playing Destiny. If you are playing mostly PvE and in some cases PvP as well, you're going to be wanting to focus into recovery and intellect. Recovery increases the speed at which you regain lost health. This is extremely powerful in PvE and also in PvP. You don't have to waste time waiting for your health to come back before you come out of cover again. So it's really important to have high recovery so you can get back into the fight faster. Intellect is going to be decreasing the cooldown of your super ability, which is also really important in PvE. However, in PvE, we're going to be popping orbs all over the place with our masterwork weapons and from other teammates. So it's not as important in PvE. In PvP, especially if you're playing competitive like Survival or Trials of Osiris, intellect is very, very important if it means you get your super one round prior to the enemy getting their super up. So intellect is definitely one to look out for. And then discipline is really great in PvE as well. The more grenades you get up, the more damage you're going to be outputting, especially with a season like this one, Season of Arrivals, where we have Oppressive Darkness as a modifier. So overall, not looking at any specific character class or specific focused build, I would say look out for recovery, intellect, and discipline. Those three stats you really want to look for. Me as a hunter, I also like to look for mobility unless I'm using a Dragon's Shadow build, which we can get into. But especially when I'm playing PvP as a hunter, I like to have 100 mobility. And I'll give you a quick tip about resilience. We're going to have a separate video on mods, but I did find that while I was experimenting with resistance type mods like energy resistance, minor resistance, major resistance, and concussive dampener, that these mods really outperform resilience right now. They may change it in the future, but for right now, I'd rather have a bunch of resistance mods on because they only cost 1 energy, which we'll talk about later, but also because they seem way more powerful when you stack them. So let's talk about what makes a good armor piece. What do you want to keep? What do you want to trash? Well, first of all, you're going to take a look at the total number down there at the bottom. You guys can see that here on my Dragon's Shadow. We've got a total of 73. You can see this chest piece right here. We've got a total of 65. This one's got 59. In my personal opinion, once you reach endgame, anything below 60 is pretty garbage in my opinion, unless it has a really good roll. So like, for example, this one I'm keeping because it's got 24 into recovery, 13 and 14 in discipline and intellect. But I would say if you're already getting a fair amount of armor pieces above 60, then that can be your line in which you dismantle everything below. However, if you do find anything that's crazy good stats, I would definitely keep it. But definitely anything below 55. So stat rolls, I believe, can go all the way down to 46. You normally only see really low stat rolls on things like Dreambane armor and armor from older seasons. And once you start getting high stat armor pieces, then you can start dropping anything below 57, 59. Just pick a point in which you're just going to dismantle it, because trust me, you're going to start getting so much gear that you won't know what to do with it. Another thing that you want to check for when you're looking at armor pieces is you'll see this little icon at the top left here. That's going to show you what season that armor is from. And you can hit the gear stats button. The control for that is going to show you down here what that is. For me, it's left trigger. But if you hit that button, it's going to show you the current power level of the item, which you can see on there, the power limit, which is the ultimate power limit of that armor piece, how high it will infuse up to, and then the seasonal power cap, which is also 1060 in the Season of Arrivals. So I can infuse this piece of armor up to 1260, but this solstice armor that I got this season can actually be infused up to 1360. So you want to make sure you're taking a look at that as well, because for example, this Forge helmet here that I got yesterday, it dropped in Season of Arrivals. However, the max power limit of this item, regardless of season, is 1060. So on November 10th, when I start leveling up again, I'm not going to be able to infuse this helmet any higher than 1060. You may want to keep these items for different triumphs that you're doing or for different mod slots. However, keep that in mind that you won't be able to infuse it past that middle power limit number there. And speaking of mod slots too, you want to keep in mind which mods you can use in the seasonal mod slots. So each piece that you get is going to have a different seasonal mod slot, and it'll tell you here which seasonal mods you can put in those slots. They're going to be different based on the season of armor that you have. This anti-extinction mask right here is going to be giving me the worthy armor mod slot. Currently, you can slot mods from the previous season, the current season, and the future season of the armor piece that you got. However, Bungie did give us information that starting season 12 on November 10th, when Beyond Light launches, the armor is no longer going to have this seasonal rotating fourth mod slot. Instead, there's going to be a mod slot that accepts mods introduced into the game throughout a full year. So we're going to have a full year's worth of mods. We don't have to worry about holding on to and masterworking gear from previous seasons, which is really great. They don't really specify if that full year is going to start in year 4 and go the full year, or if it's going to be a rolling year. If you guys have heard any more clarification from Bungie, let me know down in the comments below. The next thing that we're going to look for is high stat numbers in 2 particular areas. So pick what kind of build you're going for. I would always recommend looking for high recovery stats. These mods are pretty expensive, so it's nice to have it intrinsically on your armor pieces. I would look for recovery, discipline, and intellect. For hunters, I would take a look at high mobility stat armor as well. And for titans, you might want a little bit of resilience, but honestly, there are other ways through your mods to get your class ability back. So I don't know if I would waste the points necessarily on resilience if you're a titan. So let's take an example here of what you want to look for. So my Moonfang chest piece right here, you can see that I've masterworked it. I also have a recovery general armor mod on it. Any of these general armor mods stats, these will give you a bonus of 10 to your stats, so just keep that in mind. I like to run with these resist mods a lot, major resist, concussive dampener, etc., because they do only cost 1 energy, and so we'll take that off just so I can show you guys what the base stats look like. So here's what the chest piece looks like without that mod on it, right? When we masterwork this chest piece, we're going to be adding 12 stats, 2 to each. So 2 times 6 stats is 12. So this chest piece originally dropped with 61 total stats. So not a super high armor stat roll, since armor can go up to like 68 or 69. The highest piece I have is 68 and it's an exotic, so I'm not exactly sure. But originally this was a 61, but I'm going to tell you guys why I masterworked it. So this one came in with 28 recovery. So the extra 2 points are from the masterwork, like I said, but this originally dropped with 28 recovery and 18 discipline, which is super duper high, and it got a pretty nice intellect roll, and it got low rolls on strength and resilience, which I love. And it only got 2 mobility, which kind of sucks as a hunter. However, with certain mods like Powerful Friends, you don't really have to worry as much about getting super high mobility rolls, and I can just make sure I get a high mobility roll on a different piece. So let's go ahead and equip this chest, and I'll show you guys what I normally run for my PvP build. Now, the Gemini Jesters, I just got this one the other day, which has a lot more recovery on it and less mobility, so we're going to take a look at that. If I'm running PvP, I normally do run these recovery mods on here. So this is kind of how I would set a build if I was going into PvP. I would make sure that I am at a really high mobility. Now, traction down here actually gives you 5 on the card, but it actually gives you 15 total. So our mobility is actually up at 90. It's kind of a hidden stat that is pretty widely known. And then we've got our recovery up here at 100. I love that it's only 101. This is only 81, means that I'm not wasting a ton of stats. Resilience, I kind of am. I'm wasting those 7 stats, but not a big deal. Now for exotics, you're going to get random rolls of exotics that drop. You can also pull them out of your collections if you have already discovered it, but the collection book rolls are extremely low. So make sure you keep everything that you get from exotic world drops or from Xur. Xur is now dropping random rolls, so Xur is a really great way to get high stat rolled exotics. But I would suggest keeping most of your exotics because you never know what combination you're going to need to get these stats the way you want them. So the next thing I want to talk about is the energy of your armor. You can see it right next to that power level number, and every piece of armor that you get is going to drop with an energy. It's either going to be arc, solar, or void. As you can see here, you can also switch them by using an upgrade module. Now, if you've already masterworked them, or you have already increased the energy up, it is going to cost different materials. So let's take a look at this solstice mask. I've already increased the energy up to 6. Each step that you go up, it's going to cost another bundle of materials. So it's going to cost glimmer, legendary shards, enhancement cores. As you go up from 7 to 8, it's going to start costing prisms. And then once you go past 8, like these Gemini jesters are already at 8, it's going to cost more enhancement prisms. And then once you want to masterwork them, it's going to be costing you these ascendant shards, aka golf balls, which prisms and ascendant shards are pretty hard to come by. You're going to have to do endgame activities like nightfalls to get them. So use them very sparingly. You do not need to masterwork everything to play the endgame activities in Destiny. So don't worry about that too much. And then the other note about energies and changing them that I want to make very clear, because I made this mistake and I don't want you guys to make this mistake, is that once you masterwork your gear piece to 10, all right, and you get those added bonus of the 12 points and you're feeling good, if you want to change the energy and still keep it masterworked, you have to invest another ascendant shard and 3 prisms. So make sure that your piece is the energy you want before you masterwork it. Now you could change it all the way up until then. It's going to cost materials. So I would suggest, if you know which energy types you like on which pieces of gear, which can be a whole separate video, then you want to make sure you change that as soon as possible, because it's going to cost you a lot less materials. All right, so all that being said, I feel like I've covered most of it. Let's go over the bullet points so that you guys can get a nice little recap here. Number 1, your power level does not determine if your armor is good or not. You can infuse up to your max power level. So don't worry about that. Pick your pieces based on your stat distribution, what you want to focus on. Focus on 2 or 3 out of the 6 and go for that. Look for pieces that have high stat rolls, 18 or above, I would say, on 2 separate pieces, and look for a total stat roll of 60 or higher. Masterworking adds a total of 12 stats, 2 to each of the 6, but is definitely not required for endgame activities. So don't feel the need to waste your resources if you are not fully in love with the piece that you're looking to masterwork. Upgrade the energy of your armor pieces to allow for more mods to be slotted into your armor. This will really help you in endgame activities, but I wouldn't recommend going above 7 energy, as it does require prisms. So until you get a healthy stack of prisms, try to avoid that as much as possible, unless you are in super endgame content and you need it for your mods. And then the last point that I'll make is to look at your overall build, what you want to achieve. Focus it around an exotic that you're looking to use either in PvE or PvP, and then look at your stats and try to flatten them out as much as possible, because anything over that 0 is literally wasted. So try to get them as flat as possible, but keep in mind that if you masterwork those items, you're going to get 2 bonus to every stat. So if you don't have any masterworked items, that's a lot of additional points that you'll get once you do masterwork it. So just keep that in mind. All right, guys, that's going to do it for your Armor 101 Armor Explained video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know there's a lot of information here, and there's also a lot more information I could go super in depth with, but I didn't want this video to drag on, so those will be in separate videos. If you guys are interested in an armor mods breakdown, let me know down in the comments below, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.